The NBA regular season is over. 82 games in the books. And now we look forward to the playoffs. And we also look forward to seeing who wins the awards. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the awards. It's been a little controversial this year because there's that 65 game rule, which a lot of people thought was great at the start. And now that their favorite players don't qualify for awards, they don't think it's so great anymore. All right, even my favorite player, Devin Booker, doesn't qualify for the awards. What a travesty. But I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I think it's a good rule. And today I am going to say who I think should win all these awards. All right, I might get a little controversial here, may not. But all these players met the 65 game rule requirement. And so, good for them. They played a lot of games. They did what they're supposed to do, which is play basketball. And here we go. Let's get right into it. MVP. All right, a controversial award because, a lot of people, this 65-game rules, all these players that should win MVP, they don't qualify anymore. And by those players, they mean Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards. Those are the ones that they're talking about. Frankly, Cade Cunningham and Anthony Edwards were never going to win it. They weren't going to win it, even if they had a case. Luka Doncic, he seemed to have a real good case, but for whatever reason, he was like never first in the MVP race. Just not one time ever. Which I actually thought Luka was going to win the MVP at the start of the season. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now. He didn't even qualify for the amount of games. So the MVP race has come down to Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Nikola Jokic. And ladies and gentlemen, I think the MVP should go to Victor Wembanyama. It's time we start emphasizing defense. All right, it's half of the game is defense, and there's no better defender in all of basketball than Victor Wembanyama. All right, like it's not even close. We'll get to the DPOY. He should win that too. Way better defender than way better defender than every other MVP candidate. All right, he's at least 100 times better on defense than Jokic, than Luka, at probably 50 times better than Cade and Anthony Edwards and SGA. And not to mention, offensively, he is a fantastic player. So when you have a fantastic offensive player who happens to be the best defensive player in the NBA, I just don't know how you can argue he's not the MVP, especially when he is the 2 seed. His team's won, 62 games? How is that not the MVP? To me, it's time we start emphasizing defense. Wemby's the best defender. He's one of the best offensive players in the NBA. He's the MVP. I don't want to hear nothing about it. All right, that's just what it is, people. We got to start emphasizing defense. Moving on to the Rookie of the Year, another controversial one. I think the Rookie of the Year should go to Con Knipple and Cooper Flag. All right, because here's the thing. I think there should be a co-Rookie of the Years for the first time in like 30 years. Because look, Cooper Flag's numbers, you can't say they aren't special. Cooper Flag's numbers are absolutely amazing. But while Cooper Flag has put up fantastic numbers, Con Knipple has also put up fantastic numbers, and he's also contributed to winning basketball. And sure, it's the Rookie of the Year. All right, a lot of these players aren't on good teams, and for the first 3 months of the season, Con Knipple wasn't really on a good team either. The Hornets were playing like trash. But now the Hornets, for the first time in like a decade, have the opportunity to be in the playoffs. I think they'll make the playoffs. And he has been a big part of that. He has been a very big part of why the Hornets have been great. He has had a fantastic rookie year. And I don't think you can deny how great Cooper Flag's stats are, but I also don't think you can sit there and say, well, Con Knipple shouldn't win the award, even though he has contributed to all of this winning in Charlotte. The Hornets are one of the best basketball teams in 2026, ladies and gentlemen, And a big reason for that is Con Knipple. All right. So I think the award should go to both of them. All right. Plain and simple. Moving on to DPOY. This is the easiest one out of all of these. All right. It should be unanimous. Victor Wembanyama. All right. Moving on. Sixth man of the year also should go to a Spur. Keldon Johnson. I looked up who is even in the running for this award. Jaime Jaquez, Naz Reid, but Keldon Johnson is just to me, he's he's a tier above those guys. All right, the Spurs are the 2 seed. Big reason for that is Keldon Johnson coming off the bench and playing fantastic. Pretty much every night. And hey, good for Keldon Johnson. All right, I think he should win the Sixth Man of the Year. He's finally making the playoffs for the first time in his career. He's been with the Spurs since 2017. He's finally making the playoffs, and you just got to be happy for him. And I think he should win this award. Moving on to Most Improved Player. There's quite a few candidates you could pick from. I see a lot of people say it should go to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Seen a lot of people say it should go to Neemias Queta, if that's how you say his name. I don't actually know if I'm saying his name right. The Boston Celtics center, Neemias Queta. I'm definitely saying that wrong, I feel like. But I think it should go to the Phoenix Suns' own Colin Gillespie. Ladies and gentlemen, Colin Gillespie this season has started more games for the Phoenix Suns than he played total games in the previous 2 seasons combined. All right, Colin Gillespie smashed the Phoenix Suns single season 3-pointers made record with over 230. He's been fantastic in the clutch. He's Mr. Fourth Quarter Colin Gillespie. At least that's what I call him, because this brother is absolutely cooking in the fourth quarter. We have won many games. The Phoenix Suns have won many games because of Colin Gillespie's fourth quarter performances. Perhaps most famously the one against the Timberwolves where the Suns were down 8 points with 40 seconds to go, and Colin Gillespie was cooking that whole quarter and led the Suns to a victory in that game. It was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely incredible. It was highly unlikely. I didn't even see that because we were down 8 points with a minute to go. I'm like, well, we're not winning. I guess I'll turn it off. And for some reason, every time I turn games off is when they hit game winners. I'll sit there and stick around to see the Suns lose. Every time I turn the game off, there's a game winner. I can't believe it. It's just crazy. All right. The one time I turn the game off when we're about to lose is the one time we make a comeback. It's crazy. Colin Gillespie, Most Improved Player. I wouldn't really be too upset if it went to someone else, but I think Colin Gillespie should win it. Clutch Player of the Year. I had no idea who was even in the running for this because no one really talks about the award, but apparently the favorite to win it is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so I just picked Shai because, well, it's Shai. He's probably done very clutch things this season. Probably hit some game winners, hit some big shots, no doubt about it. The reigning MVP. And then Coach of the Year, I went with Joe Mazzulla. A few teams have more wins than him. But the Boston Celtics are the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. All right? And that is because of 2 guys. That's because of Jaylen Brown stepping up and having an MVP caliber season. And that is because Joe Mazzulla is an absolutely fantastic coach. This guy, for 2/3 of the season, was having Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard and play with guys you never even heard of before. All right? We talked about Neemias Queta. He's played fantastic. I don't know how many people knew his name prior to this season. I certainly didn't. And he's starting guys like, Jordan Walsh. He's starting guys like, Baylor Shireman, just people you never heard of before. And the Boston Celtics were on fire with these guys. Joe Mazzulla led a team that was starting multiple G Leaguers in their starting lineup, to the 2 seed. That is incredible. And I don't think you can really make an argument just based on what he was given with, what Joe Mazzulla had to work with, that he isn't the coach of the year. I mean, no disrespect to these guys like Baylor Shireman or Jordan Walsh, but who would have thought that that 8 teams starting those guys was going to be the 2 seed? I certainly wouldn't, and I couldn't even tell you who those guys were at the start of the season. Absolutely incredible coaching from Joe Mazzulla, and shout out to all those guys like Baylor Shireman, like Jordan Walsh. I've seen games where they have absolutely balled out this season. They have played incredible. And yeah, Joe Mazzulla should be the coach of the year. Now we're going to get to the All NBA teams. All NBA first team, I think, should be Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Jaylen Brown, and Donovan Mitchell. I don't think there's really much debate to be had there. All NBA second team: Jalen Brunson, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Jalen Duren, and Jalen Johnson. All right, maybe you could move a few of these people around. I kind of based it on where they ended up. Like Kawhi, maybe you can make the argument he is all NBA first team, but he is also the 9 seed and a play-in team. So I don't really think I can put him first team as a play-in guy. Then you got, Jalen Duren. Maybe you could probably argue, maybe he's third team. But I put him second because he's on the first seed that won 60 games. And, like, you're telling me the first seed doesn't have a top 10 player in the NBA, or at least a top 10 player that qualifies for the awards? Jalen Johnson. It was between Jalen Johnson and Scotty Barnes, honestly, for this 5th spot on the second team. But I gave it to Jalen Johnson. Could have went with Scotty Barnes, but I gave it to Johnson. All right, I gave it to Jalen Johnson. He, it's kind of the reverse. At the start of the year, the Raptors were like really good. They were the 2 seed, and then they kind of fell off a little bit in the second half. Start of the year, the Hawks were trash, and now they picked it back up in these last few months. All NBA third team: Scotty Barnes, Tyrese Maxey, Karl Anthony Towns, Jamal Murray. Yeah, round of applause for Jamal Murray. Making All NBA. I think he'll make All NBA. And James Harden, who, and if you ask me, really helped the Cavaliers, stay afloat in the second half of the season. Really, before it was just Donovan Mitchell, but they traded for James Harden. They got a second ball handler. They got a second scoring option. Jared Allen's play picked up when they got James Harden. And they were like the 8th seed before they traded for Harden. They weren't doing real good over there in Cleveland. But those are the All NBA teams, in my opinion. All the awards, in my opinion. Tell me, what you think in the comments. Do I know what I'm talking about? Am I a complete fool and I should never talk about basketball again? What is the case? All right. Are some of these great picks? Are some of these awful picks? I don't know. Let me know. Suns are winning it all. They're going to win the title. No doubt about it. There you go.